Live streams launched. There we go. All right. Boy, that's distracting. All right, let me do a recording here too, just to back it up, and we'll get going, guys.
All right.
Well, there you
It's a
go.
great day today.
Well, that was a generic statement, Stephen.
Well, I'll tell
But
you the
yes,
reason
it's
why.
positive. I like it.
Well, the reason why I was just doing another master class,
Yeah,
and one of our members licensed an idea, and that's
nice.
always a reason to celebrate. So I love it
That
when
okay, great. Nice, nice. That is
I'm
a
gonna,
reason to
I'm gonna
celebrate it.
have him on inventRight TV to talk about it because I'll tell you, it took 3 weeks from the he did a chat GPT one-line benefit statement.
Yeah.
I think it helped him do the sell sheet, and it took 3 weeks. He had the deal.
Wow,
It never
that's
happens
very
that
quick.
way.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Now I see why you're excited, definitely. Okay, so let's get going, guys. Welcome to what we are calling here is we're calling it the Licensing Playbook Live. We're streaming every Wednesday at 5 Pacific, 6 Mountain, 7 Central, and 8 Eastern. My name is Andrew Krauss. I co-founded inventRight with Stephen Key over 25 years ago to help inventors license their products. Stephen, wave your hand there. Okay, cool. This weekly webinar is your go-to guide for learning how to license your product ideas to companies that are actively looking for innovation. Each week, we're going to break down real-world strategies and exact steps you need to take to get your in the front door of companies and get heard. You'll learn how to pitch with confidence, avoid common mistakes, and dramatically, yes, dramatically, and that's not all, increase your chances of landing a licensing deal. Thanks for joining us live. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat box or by digitally raising your hand here on Zoom. If you're joining us live streamed on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, we're streaming to all those places at this moment. Simply type your questions into the chat on those platforms, and we will try to get to some of your questions. Also here on Zoom, we can unmute you and you can speak your question at some point. In addition to Stephen and myself as co-founders, Dana's here with us today. Dana, say hi to the crowd.
Hi.
She is our gateway manager, or as it says on her tag there, gateway queen. I think she prefers to be known as.
I need a crown.
You need to,
I
we'll
need a
get you a
tiara.
crown, Dana. We will, yeah. Basically, her task is to reach out to companies to pitch our clients' inventions. She guides a team of 3 others that do the same. One of those gentlemen is here right now. Chad, raise your hand for Chad.
Hey guys.
Chad's part of the team, an incredible part of the team. So today's topic, guys, is have you made contact with a company? And the first response is very exciting, but what happens next can make or break your deal. So what do you do when you make contact with a company? We're going to get into it. So let's get going, guys. Here we go.
Okay, before we start, just a minute, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up tonight. What's really crazy about this, reaching out to companies has actually gotten a little harder today. And that's why we're having this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. West Coast and 8 East Coast. Because it used to be a little bit easier. It was easier on LinkedIn. It was easier, reaching out to people. It's gotten a little crazy. I think it's gotten just so busy. People just are ghosting. They're not responding. And because of that, it's probably driving you a little crazy. It drives me crazy. How many times you have to reach out to someone so they actually know who you are and they respond? So you're thinking maybe you're doing something wrong, maybe yes, maybe no, or just maybe you don't understand some of the new techniques that you need to get noticed. So they know who you are, so you can pitch those great ideas to them. That's why we're here. And we created a program where we have a team of people calling companies all day long. That's all they do. I mean, they do more than that, but it's a terrible job. And I told them, you guys, this is like the worst job you could possibly have. This is even though I've been knocking on doors, door to door sales since I was 18. I don't like it any better today than I did back then. So, but this team, I said, look, if you're good at this, you're going to change an industry. If you're good at this, you're going to connect great ideas with companies because companies need ideas. I don't care when, where, I don't care if there's tariffs. I do not care. They need new ideas, but to get to them is harder than ever. So that's why we have Dana, Chad. These two are killing it every single day. So Dana, here's the question. We'll start with you first.
Okay, I'm
You
ready.
reach out to a company. We already talked last week of who to kind of target. So you reach out to them. What happens when you start to get a response?
Well, I've often said that there's nothing better than, you reach out to a company, we talked about it last week, you find the company, find that right person, send them over an email, send them over a LinkedIn message, maybe leave them a voicemail, and they call you back, or they email you back, or they LinkedIn message back and say, yes, we're open. We're always looking for ideas. I love when they say that we're always open to new ideas. Here's my email, send it over. That is, and I always say that's like such a high for me. And I might be weird, but I'm sure it would be a high for everybody else in here too. So I do have a question before I get into this. How many people are reaching out to companies and have had somebody say, hey, I want to see your idea? Okay. Okay. So
Not enough.
not enough, but that's okay. I mean, we have a lot of people that aren't on camera, so let's just hope that there's a few more. So this is a very, very important thing. When they say, yes, I'm open to an idea, we send over the sell sheet immediately. It is sent over probably no more than 10 minutes after we get that I'm open. Okay,
Wait
so
a minute. But I'm not ready yet.
oh, well then yeah, they shouldn't be reaching out yet. You shouldn't be reaching out yet.
Why so fast, Dana?
Because you got to get them while they're hot, while it's at the top of their mind.
Okay.
And that's just important because if you reach out to them on June 1st and you're not ready to send it out until August 1st, trust me, they have forgotten about you. And it doesn't show real good professionalism
Okay.
for you to ask them if they're open and then not be prepared to send them over something right away.
Okay.
Dana, do you tell them, look, I'm going to get this over to you in the next 10 minutes? Do you say that?
No, I never say no. I don't. I say I'll get
You
it
say
over
that?
to you right. I'll send it over right away. So right away
Okay.
could be 10 minutes. Right away in the business world, right away it
Right.
could be by the end of the day. But I will make sure that I'm ready as soon as they say yes, I'm open. I am sending over that sell sheet
Okay.
with the description of kind of just a recap of why I'm sending this and what my goal is.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute. So you got the right person and you're going to get it over there very quickly. I like that kind of paper trail that
Mhm.
you're starting to probably mention, a little bit about the idea, maybe not. I mean, what are you putting in that little message for them to know that you just talked and you're sending them something? What do you do?
Usually well, if I've talked to them on the phone or I've emailed or somehow, some way, I've mentioned the name of the product or the industry of the product, whether it's a pet toy
Okay.
or, a tool. I mean, Chad can talk about that. I've mentioned that. So I put in the subject matter, name of the product, product submission or
Oh,
product review or
okay.
something. And then it would be in the email, hi, Mary. Thank you so much for speaking with me via LinkedIn, phone call, email, or well, if it's email, I'm just responding to the email. And then, here's the gosh, I say it all the time. Here's the product that I discussed. I say the main benefit. I attach the sell sheet and they already know that I'm looking to license this product. They already know that's my goal. I don't have to repeat myself. So it's two sentences.
Okay.
Here, thank you so much for talking to me. Here's the product we discussed, the pet product we discussed. Let me know if you have any questions, need more time to review, or are not interested.
Okay. Oh,
Thanks. Sell sheet attached. That's it.
okay.
That's
So
it.
Dana, why is it so important to have that first connection before you send it? Because I think a lot of people might be sending it and they haven't even made contact yet.
Well, it's just unprofessional to not get permission to send something over unsolicited.
Got it.
You're probably going to get ignored. If you send it over unsolicited to an email, you're probably going to get ignored. I always
Mhm.
ask permission
Okay.
first. always. Not so much asking, may I have permission to send this, but I've had some kind of conversation with them.
Every company is different, right, Dana? Because I remember there was one of our students sent something unsolicited to a CEO of a company, and because everybody's different, right? He got very angry.
Yeah,
He
I would
got
never do that.
very angry.
Yeah,
Why'd you put me in this position? That's not normal at all.
yeah.
But there's always exceptions,
Okay.
and it's always respectful to ask permission before you send something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chad,
Yeah. I would
hey,
never send over anything unsolicited.
Chad, what do you do? Do you do the same thing or something different? What do you do?
No, my model is pretty much the same. I touch on everything that Dana touched on there. I agree. You always want to get quote permission before sending anything over there. You want to make sure that you've talked to these people, that you talk to the right person. God forbid you have somebody get angry over it. I've not encountered that very often, but I have had some negative responses, and that is with even getting permission. So you just never know. You have to be prepared to be fluid with these calls. It's important to maybe match their energy. If you can almost tell if somebody's in a hurry, if they're quick to get you off the phone, if they're interested in, chopping it up a little bit. So I always try to match that energy.
The one question I have though, you guys, that I think the companies really like what you're both are doing, you're really matching that product to that company. And how do you convey that?
I
Chad, how do you convey that? Because I know you kind of
Yeah.
specialize in tools, you know that industry extremely well. How do you convey that it's a good match for them?
so one of the things I like to do is I like to have everything kind of set up and make this as easy for myself as possible. I'll have a LinkedIn opened up. I'll have their profile opened up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have their website opened up and ready to go. And while you're on the phone with them, you might even touch on a specific product that they have. I saw that this was similar to X product that you have in your brand, and I thought this I like to use that, might be a good fit for your wheelhouse. I like to throw that out there. See if
Yeah.
that's if you can mention something that they specifically have, that lets them know that you've done your homework, that you're not just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks, because that's what you get a lot. A lot of these companies, especially in tools, you never know what these guys are going to send, and tools, I mean, tools is a pretty broad category, so Dana just got into a company that they specify for tools for the electrical trade. And then I have a company that specifies in tools for woodworking, and they'll look at stuff. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch, and you can even mention that, like, hey, I get this. This might be a little off from your product line, but I could see it being used by your customer base. And if you can point that out and let them know that you're being flexible with them and that you're being understanding of the product line that they're. Because I've said, had a company where they only do drill bits. That's it. He doesn't want to look at anything else. I mean, if it's anything outside of that spectrum, they're not interested in looking at that. And with being in this position, we have a lot of different products, and I just let them know, the chances of something coming across my desk that'll exactly fit that are slim, but I'm happy to keep you in mind for anything that may be relevant.
So,
And then
Chad, how did you get so good at this? What did you do before you did this?
not this, that's for sure. I've been in construction most of my life. Whether I'm operating heavy equipment, I've been a construction inspector. Concrete has kind of been my thing all this time. So this is definitely a pivot from what I was doing before, and I even had reservations on how I would do with it. But I think I'm crazy because I enjoy it. I like it. I have the ability to kind of BS with anybody. I'm very comfortable talking to people. Um,
Wait. You're not nervous?
so once in a while, no, I'm not nervous, but once in a while, I'll a wrench will get thrown in there. I'll be contacting companies, and I'll be bouncing between products, and I'll get a company that calls me back, and I have no idea who they are. He's like, "Hey, this is so and so," and I'm like, I've even told him, I said, hey, I'm not in the office. I'm in my truck right now. I said, I know how I have a product for you. I'm not sure what it is right now, but I'm happy to send it over to you when I get there. These people are just human on the other end.
Okay.
Um,
So,
I've
so you're not
actually
trained,
sent
you're not
to,
professionally trained to do this.
no, not at all.
Okay, Dana, what about you? What makes it, why is it so easy for you to do this too?
Practice. I always say it's practice. I gotta share a story that Chad hit it right on there. I got their LinkedIn page open. I got their website open, and this one particular company I wanted to get into is a perfect match for one of our gateway clients. But they have 86 pages of product that are basically the same product, like, because that's what they do. They specialize in this one product. And so I sent him an email and I said, I've researched your product line, but not all 86 pages.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I know. It's like he responded back and said, yeah, I know. It's a lot. You
No,
probably
Dana,
gotta
that's
track a lot.
fantastic because
Yeah.
you're like, I'm paying attention to what you guys are doing. I respect you. I'm not just randomly trying to shove
And
something down your throat. It
yeah.
shows respect when you mention
Well,
a product like Chad,
Yeah.
or like you're
Yeah.
mentioning you got 86 pages.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Not even.
respect. It
Yeah.
really is.
well,
I would
Something
like
else.
to.
it's
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
humor.
sorry.
go ahead.
She's using humor too. The guy
Yeah.
knows that that's
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, but honestly, not all 86 pages. I did about 10 and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Yeah, that's enough, 10 pages.
Well,
And,
and I'd like to say that there's a flip side to that coin also. I don't, Dana, I would think you would agree as well that so we do a lot of work trying to match the right product with these companies, okay? Sometimes it's a bit of a stretch, but that can be okay. I mean, if unless you're completely, I mean, you don't want to send a dog toy to a tool company, but you don't know who these people are partnered with. You don't know what business associations they have. There's been numerous times where I've gotten, hey, this is not a good fit for us, but let me run it by this retailer or X distributor that I deal with. They have a network in
Well,
that category, in that industry, and they know more people than you do. So
okay. Chad,
I mean, I wouldn't be sending just crazy stuff over there, but if it's in the ballpark, it doesn't hurt, and it doesn't hurt to mention that either, you know.
yeah,
well, you
I
know
would
what's really
mention it
crazy?
too.
I'm the first one to tell people don't do exactly what you said to do. You guys, that's why it's really important for you to listen to what they're doing because I tell everybody if it's not a good match, don't send us a waste of time. And he's already told you you don't know, but he's warning them that it might not be a good match, and that's what I really like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Hey,
think that's because we study the product line. We study the product line. It's not such a far stretch.
Okay.
It's not like we look at their product line and say, okay, could this possibly be something that they're interested in? But it's not that far of a stretch. They're still working with the same materials. They're still in the same price point. We talked about that last week. They're still in that wheelhouse, but we can't, maybe I can't find anything quite like
How do you find the companies?
huh?
How do you find those companies?
Well, we talked about that last week. They have to watch
Well,
the
I would mention, Dana, that you've also ran into they don't always have all of their product line on their
Yeah.
website. They
Yeah.
might not have
true.
everything on there too.
Yeah.
True. Sometimes though, there's a vendor portal, and
Mhm.
you got to log in the vendor portal, and their website doesn't show all their products. Um, However, if you see one of their products on Walmart or on Petco or PetSmart or whatever, just using that as an example, you can always Google the name of that product, and you're like, oh, damn, this one showed up in Home Depot and Lowe's and Target and Walmart. So you can Google the name of their product and see where it shows up. But that is a very good point, Chad. They don't always have all their products on their website. Some of them have none of their products on their website. Some of them have all their products on the website. It really does vary. And you got to be, I liked what Stephen, I liked what Chad said earlier. You got to be fluid with this. And if you're really rigid with this, it's not going to work. And the only way you can really be fluid with anything in life is to do a lot of it and use your brain a little. You don't use your
Do you,
brain a lot, but you use your brain a little and adjust and
do
be
you
fluid.
specialize, Chad? And I mean, are you the tool guy?
Yeah, I think I kind of turned into what's his name, Tim the Toolman Taylor over at inventRight. I think I get most of the tools and but
Yeah.
it works out though because I've built a relationship with quite a few of these companies, and so the more that I send them, and the more they realize that I'm accepting of whatever their response may be. I'm not over here arguing with them if if it's not a good fit for X, Y, X reason. They're more apt to respond to me on the next one. Like I have a lady right now that she's the owner of a tool company, and she's reviewing a product, and I just talked to her today, and I had two more that came across my desk that are a pretty good fit for her too. And she's got a meeting with a big retailer at the end of July. She's gonna She's going to run by them, see if there's any interest. So, you know,
So it does help that they know that you're going to be sending them more. Because I tell everybody, you guys, if you're in one industry and you're submitting ideas, build those relationships, but send them more ideas. And they know that, don't they?
yeah, and the fluidity is key, like Andrew was talking about. So I have this guy. He's great. He's great at reviewing products. He'll always get back to you. He'll always give you feedback. It's usually, you know, whether it's positive, negative, but he's very particular about the way that you submit to him. So one of the first sell sheets I sent over, I said, you know, I'm sending over just a simple PDF sell sheet, a quick demo video. I said, it's embedded. You just click on it. He said, I need the link right to the video. I said, well, I said, it's in there. He's like, nope, I want it. I copy and paste the link right to it. And in the time that he sent that email, he could have clicked the link 5 times, but that's the way he wants it. And so now moving forward, I send him the link and then I get a response right back. And that's the way he wants it. So that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
So let's move on, you guys. What happens? Okay. You've got a great relationship. You tell them you got a great product. You tell them a little bit that you know what you're doing because you know what the product line. I really like that so much. And you send it over. How long does it take for them to respond? Is it months, weeks, days? Yeah, what Dana tell us? How long does it
Well,
take?
Dana, I
all
want
of
you
the
to
above.
Dana, you got into we won't say what the name of the company is,
Yeah.
but a very big pet company. How
Yeah.
long were you working on getting into that particular company? You were in
I
the-
actually,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
that was a huge win. I was like, wow, I was so excited. I was actually on the phone with you, Stephen, when the email came through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this finally happened, right? It's like I'm winning the lottery. So I look back at my notes. We keep very, very detailed notes. The first time that I reached out to that company was in January 2024. Was
Wow.
the first time I reached out to that company. I called them, couldn't get through, reached out to this person, reached out to that person, I reached out to so many people in this company, and I finally, what I had done, and this is something that, you know, I will share, is I follow every company I want to get into. If they're on LinkedIn, I follow that company. I follow them. I want to see when they post something.
You follow them where?
I follow them on LinkedIn. I follow the company. I follow. Does you?
She stalks them. She
I
stalks them.
no. I just want to see
Yeah,
what they
no,
post.
it's a stalking. Go ahead.
No,
Dana.
it's not. I want to follow them. There's a follow button. Click the follow button.
Okay.
And then when they post something, I want to see who commented on it. And as like new people would comment, of course, I go look at who they are, reach out to them. Some people connect. This is real frustrating when you tell them what you want in a LinkedIn note and then they connect with you, but then you follow up with that, you know, and then they just ghost you.
So-
That's Chad and I talk about that all the time. But this big company for a year and a half.
So Dana, why
trying
did
to
you
get
keep
into 'em.
at it? Why didn't you just walk away and go, these guys are a waste of time?
Because I'm not a quitter.
Well,
Because
they're a really big company, Stephen,
Yeah.
and
you know
yeah.
what? This is the thing about them is I never got to know we're not open. And
Right.
if I would have, my rule is I need to hear no, we're not open from 3 different people.
Let's talk about that. Dana,
Yeah.
can you share more and Chad
sure.
can share
Oh,
too? Yeah.
Sure. Or
Yeah.
I want to hear it from the CEO
Yeah,
of the
because Dana, you do something I tell people not to do too. You reach out to how many people within a company?
Oh, I could reach out depending on the size
All
of the
of them.
company. No, not all of them. No, I don't think LinkedIn would like that. I would get booted off of LinkedIn. Depending on the size of the company, it's not uncommon for me to reach out to 40 or 50 people. Big companies,
Wow.
40 or 50 people, smaller company, 6, 8, 10.
And
Yeah.
what happens when one responds?
So,
What do you do with the rest?
well, it doesn't happen like, if I reach out to 50 people, 20 of them are going to respond. That doesn't happen. And usually I will keep the conversation going with each person as if the other ones don't exist.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Until they finally say, yes, we're open, send me the sell sheet. And then I may or may not let that person know, hey, if 2 people want the sell sheet, I've had it happen where 4 people wanted the sell sheet. And I kind of shared, these are the other people I'm talking to, who should I send it to? And that doesn't happen very often.
you know what I like about this so much? Everything we've been teaching, you're just breaking all the rules.
Well, because Stephen, Chad and Dana's job for
Yeah.
gateway clients is to get in no matter what at any cost. So they're not going to listen to what you advise them to do.
Not
No,
They
anymore.
got quotas. They got to get in, man. So they're going
Well,
to do
no,
people
whatever
have
it takes.
told
Well,
me, they're like, well, they're like, wow, Chad, you don't take no for an answer. And I say, I always like to say that's not true. I will take no for an answer, but I'm going to need to hear you say it. You know,
well,
like
now
I'm going to need to hear you say it.
I'll give you a perfect, this just happened yesterday. I reached out to a company, I called them, and the woman said, "No, we're not really open because, we sell at Walmart." This was her reasoning, which made me think I got to talk to somebody else. She said, "We're not really open ideas. We sell at Walmart, and our price point is, $3 to $10." And I'm thinking, what's that have to do with not being open? Clearly, she didn't know what I was talking about. So I said, "Okay, thank you very much." So I go on LinkedIn, I look up the CEO of the company, and I reached out to the CEO. But before we were talking about researching, they sell in Walmart. So I looked at Walmart, and it was for hair product. It's Gimme. Gimme is the name of the company. They are not open to ideas. Just so you know, everybody, do not reach out to them. They are not open. They sell all over the place, and their products are between $3 to $8 or $9. And so when I reached out to the CEO on LinkedIn, I said, I have a client that has a product that may fit well into your product line. The price point would be between the 3 and 5. Like I mentioned that I went to Walmart and looked at his products or whatever. He got back, he connected with me instantly and got back with me immediately. And he said, our policy is to not take outside ideas. Sorry so much. Good luck to you. But I want to hear it, like Chad says, I want to hear it from somebody that has weight and depth, not from a customer service person.
Yeah, you get that a lot from customer service. And a lot of times, I'm not even sure that they know what you're actually asking them. You know what I mean? You can kind of, we like breathe this licensing and watch it so much that we kind of just, it's like ingrained in our head. Just because we say licensing doesn't, they don't necessarily always know what we're talking about, So
No.
there's been numerous times where customer service will be like, oh yeah, we're not open. Well, we'll see.
So getting back to that first question, the company that took a year and a half, that's not really typical. What is more typical of getting back or getting some type of response?
You know what? I don't know if there is a typical. Some people get back to you right away. Some people, I might reach out to somebody on LinkedIn and 3 months later they respond like it was yesterday. I called a company the last week and left a voicemail on their generic telephone number, and the next day they called me back. So there's no like typical. I don't think. I don't think there's a typical.
I don't think so either. There's no typical. I mean, I've had companies where it's been, like you said, almost a year before I've gotten into it. And I think the fastest one I got in and found out that they were open was on my phone. I had it. It was 1 minute and 45 seconds, and that included ring time. The CEO picked up. Yep, we're cool with it. Send it over. That's rare. Just like the year thing is rare. But I did have one thing that I wanted to bring up at this meeting, and I don't want to bring anybody down, but this is key to this. So like you might think that these people are ghosting you. Why are you ignoring me? Things like that. I mean, people are busy. People, how many times have an email come through and it just gets filtered down to the bottom? But my point is that you never know what's going on, because I finally got a hold of this lady. I'd sent over the sell sheet. I got her on the phone. She was the owner of the company, and she said, she said, I saw the marketing materials that you sent over, but she's like, could you reach back to me in a month or two? She said, my daughter is going through a terminal illness. And I offered, any condolences that I could. I said, absolutely. We want to be respectful of your time. I hope everything works out with you and your daughter. We'd be happy to, reach back in X amount of time. And granted, I just talked to her this week, actually, and she was able to review the product. That's the one that's going to speak with the retailers. And I was hesitant. With something like that, I didn't want to bring it up. You know what I mean? I almost wanted to, because I felt for the lady. You know what I mean? I understood where she was going with that, but I didn't bring it up, long story short. But you just don't know. You don't know what these people are going through.
I'd like to expand on what Chad is saying there. I think sometimes when you're new to this, you're intimidated because it's this big, giant company, right? But you're not licensing to a company. You're licensing to a person within the company. Ultimately, it's the company's product then when you license it. So when you bring it down to that level, on a level like Chad's talking about, what this woman's going through, or somebody's on vacation, or somebody got laid off, or they're just super overwhelmed with so much stuff. When you realize that you're dealing with people, not only does it change your mindset and how you interact with them, but it also makes it less threatening to you because they're just people. They're dealing with this, a lot of the same struggles that you guys are dealing with. So just think about that. I thought what Chad was talking about is fantastic. These are just individual people. Now, because they're all people, they're all different. So reaching out to 6 or 8 at a smaller company or even 40 at a bigger company like Dana is, everybody's busy doing a lot of stuff, but you get that one person that's in the right mindset and they're going to get back to you when somebody else won't.
Okay, we got a good question here. What titles do you reach out to? I mean, is it sales and marketing, new product development, the vice president? I mean, how do you figure out who that 40 people or 8 people you're going to reach out to, and what are their titles?
There's probably a half or a dozen titles that I look for. I look for somebody in product development, but you got to be real careful about somebody in product development nowadays. It has changed. Product development can also mean they're a web designer or something like that. They're technology. That is something I found when it says product development, I'm reading their about section on their LinkedIn profile, and it's saying everything's technology. And I'm like, well, we don't want to reach out to them. So and I subscribe to on LinkedIn, like when product development jobs come up, not that I want to get a job as a product developer anywhere, but a lot of those jobs that are posted on LinkedIn are for the technical end of product development.
Okay.
I always will reach out to the owner, CEO.
Okay.
I think it's marketing, sales, but I always read their about section. I want to see something in there that says innovation, product development, something that gives me a cue to say, this is the person I possibly can
And where do you
connect
find
with.
that information, Dana?
It's on their LinkedIn page.
About
Underneath their
kind of
profile.
their past what their skills are.
Yeah. And sometimes, and if you scroll down on their LinkedIn page, or at least I can, I don't know, I have a paid LinkedIn account, you can see all the places they worked in the past too.
Okay.
And that has, sometimes maybe they're not in product development or they're at this current job, but they were in the past job. And yeah.
So you're looking for that word, innovation.
Yeah.
You're looking
And
for that word.
all of that becomes so fluid. The more you do it, the more you practice that. I can tell you there's numerous times a day where I will start my call before I even know who I'm looking for. Like I'll dial the number, I'll jump over as it's ringing, I'll type in the company's page, click over to people, scroll down. Well, within that time, I can usually find somebody who's in, like Dana said, product development, CEO, anything like that. I mean, so you can get so fluid with spotting that. And also, I've noticed with LinkedIn, the more that I search for those people, at least in my experience, those titles seem to come up first. And so not always. I mean, sometimes you got to scroll down through, but typically when I do a search like that, the people that I connect with the most in those titles seem to come up first. So the more you do that, the more fluid it gets. And then even if you company directories are awesome because then you can call everybody.
I know. I've done that before. Even like somebody in procurement, somebody in legal, that has patent or somebody that does their IP stuff. There's probably, but then again, I've reached out to people who have a title of customer service because I looked at their about section. It said something in there that cued me to reach out to them. I don't want to reach out to anybody in warehousing. I don't want to reach anybody in accounting. Don't want to reach HR. It's almost like not who do I want to reach out, who don't I want to reach out to, and do process of elimination the backwards way.
I got a guy as a contact in the tool company. I couldn't tell you his real name if my life depended on it. Everybody in the company calls him Boxing Lou. I don't know if he's a boxer. I don't know if he deals with boxes. I don't know. I have no idea, but they call him Boxing Lou. That's what's in his email.
Mhm.
I don't know, like it took me a while to find out that, that he was actually in product development. I'd have to call and I just asked the company. I remember the first time asking, I felt so weird. I'm like, I'm looking for Boxing Lou. Like, oh yeah, he's over here. Let me transfer you over to him. Like, all right. Like,
We've got a question. Why not just go there in person?
Oh my gosh.
because I don't want to get arrested.
You don't want to get arrested. First of all, we don't need to.
I have
Nobody wants us knocking on their door. You know, in this day and age, why go in person?
Totally
This
unnecessary.
doesn't make sense. Yeah, if there's
I have a funny story. It was with actually my licensee that I licensed my fire starting product to. He told me that they had dealt with a couple of inventors, previously. They licensed a couple products. And this guy, it was one of those ones that he wanted $500,000 up front, and he wanted to get into a meeting with the whole board and all of these things just to pitch the product, and totally just didn't understand the landscape of how this stuff works. And he showed up at their office. He showed up at their office with this prototype, and I don't think that they even entertained, like had a meeting with him or whatever, because they'd already had correspondence with that. And if it's to a point where they want to have a sit down with you, they'll let you know, and that's way further in on the process. But I wouldn't show up at anybody's door if I were you.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. What about trade shows, you guys? Dana, typically you've gone to a lot of trade shows. I know Andrew does too. Is that? I mean, you have to wait once a year to do that. That seems like pretty difficult to do that.
I love trade shows because I want to be there. I want to shake their hand. I want to see them. I want to talk to them. I want them to know me. I'm really good at, each booth I go to, I'm going to make sure they remember me somehow, some way, even if I said this, give them a compliment on their tie or their necklace or whatever. I want them to remember me. I want to get a card. But that's expensive and it's time consuming. And so I believe that you can get a lot of companies off of trade show websites on their vendor list. That's sometimes you might have to pay for them. It's very minimal if they do. Sometimes you can just ask for them and they'll send you the link to the vendor list.
A lot of times it's just showing on the trade show site.
Yeah,
Here are all the companies at the
There's
show.
Yeah.
Here's their booth number,
Be prepared to spend a lot of time on the internet if you're going to their website, because if they have 500 vendors, you got to look at every single one of them.
Yeah,
a lot of times
didn't you go to the SHOT Show, and the SHOT Show, the outdoor one? That's like five floors, wall to wall. I mean,
I haven't been to that show yet. I want to go to that show.
Oh, that'd be a fun one to go to.
Here's where here's why I would always advise you to go to a trade show. If you've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 products in a particular industry and you're going to stay in that industry, pet, kitchen, firearms for a SHOT Show, whatever it is, you should always go to the trade show. If you're like, I'm going to be inventing for this industry for years to come, you got to go to the trade show. It's worth your investment. But if you're like, I'm going to do this one dog toy and then maybe I'll go over here and jump the kitchen and stuff, now it makes sense for us because we're working on a ton of pet products or a ton of kitchen products or a ton of firearms or whatever. So, and also I'm right here in Vegas. So for me, it's a 30-minute drive down to the convention center to go to the show. So I don't have the hotel. I don't have the food. I don't have the flight. I don't have all those expenses.
Here's a related question, Andrew. Me personally, I've never been to a trade show, and this might be something that some of these guys might have a question on. How do I find out if there are trade shows in my area? And I mean, that's even a question for me because I'm not sure, how would I know if there was a trade show within X radius of my city?
I know how to do that.
Yeah,
well, how do you
there's
do
someone should put in the chat. There's a website where all the trade shows are there.
Yeah.
I think it's tsnn.com. I don't know if it's still.
You know what? If you want to find a trade show in your area, trade shows are generally at big venues.
Yeah.
In big cities.
Okay.
Look up the venues that are close to you. If they're 100 miles away or 100, whatever, what's your radius? Look up those venues, those, like the McCormick Center. There's one in Philadelphia. I'm surprised we don't have trade shows in Washington, D.C., which I would love that because I'm only like an hour away from there. But every event space has a calendar of what's going on. And that's the best way to find if there's going to be a trade show near you.
But
Okay,
let's
I've got a
break it
question
down. Let's
here.
break it down, Stephen. I mean, most shows, I know you were in music for a while. There was a show in LA. Not a lot in LA, there's a few. Most shows are Las Vegas and Chicago, a few in LA and a few in Florida, but most of them are Chicago
New York.
and Las Vegas, some New York.
Yeah.
So if you're not near those places, it's going to be a trip.
And to be clear, we're not talking about getting a booth at a trade show. We're talking about walking the floor. Don't get a booth. But I
Okay,
know
we got
we were
another
gonna-
question here, you guys. Why not just go? And I love this question because people get confused about this all the time. Why don't I just go to the distributors?
Why don't you define what a distributor is?
Yeah,
And
what do they
you,
think?
you want us to answer that, or are you going to answer your own
Yeah, right
question,
here it
Steve?
says, do you ever go directly to a main distributor like for Walmart or Kroger's? Companies like these that manufacture their own products. I think she's talking about private label too a little bit.
No,
No,
no, we
you
would. I
guys,
would
it's
never.
real simple.
No.
And this is confusing.
Yeah.
When you're trying to license an idea, you want to find the company that's going to use distributors, of course, and you need to find the company that's going to be paying you that royalty. Distributors sometimes do make their own products. That's how they all started. They make their own and they distribute others. Sometimes you can show your product to a distributor. They like it. They might know someone within their list that might want to license it. That's another way. But typically, we don't go to distributors. But the other thing about private label, here's another one people are confused a little bit about. You know, all stores have their own private label,
Yeah.
but they don't innovate with private label. They take existing ideas that have been selling for years that everybody knows about and produce their own private label, which is kind of knocking off the big brands, and they sell it. But if it requires education, those private label companies like Kroger's or Walmart or whatever, they're not interested in it because it requires education. They want to take generics. Yeah. Okay. All right. What other questions do we have here? 'Cause
Yeah,
wanna
I had
see-
a question that was from a while ago from Link. And he's watching, or he or she's watching live on YouTube right now. And I'm just gonna shorten up the question. He approached a company, presented three ideas. They were interested in one, weren't interested in the other two, and basically saying, "Do you think outside the box?" You know, he said, "I believe the other two may create a prototype and go from there." But anyway, he's just kind of worried that he's going to get ripped off. So I think we need to address that briefly. If you're new to this and you feel like everybody's going to steal your idea, you're gonna make a half-ass effort to reach out. You got to get over that fear. So in 25 years, we've had students in 65 countries. Dana, Chad, Brad, and Claudia have been reaching out for our gateway clients where we do the work for them for quite some time now. We've never had a company knock off that we submitted to knock off an idea that we sent to them or that one of our students have sent to them in 25 years. Could it
Well, and
happen? Yes, it could
and
happen.
if you were say you were sending me an idea, Andrew, and I ripped you off, how many more would you send me? None. You know what I
I
mean? If
would,
these guys need this business, so if they were to start doing that, they wouldn't have anybody submitting to them. That's
yeah.
very counterproductive for them.
So that Chad makes a very good point there. And then some other points are you're creating a paper trail, an email paper trail. We always advise inventors to file a provisional patent application. You can use some software on the inventRight site to do so. And the patent office fee is only $65. So for $65, there's no reason not to do a provisional. You got a paper trail, you got all this, you thought about all the variations, you threw them in the provisional. So I just want to address that very briefly because Link was concerned about it. He's like, well, and you know, what happened to Link is great. Hey, they're interested in one idea, but not the other two. Maybe they're trying to steal my other two. You know, he should be excited about the one, you know.
Well, and the more you're familiar with that language, the more of a deterrent it is. Also, they understand that you know what you're talking about. You understand the landscape of protecting your idea, and it's in my opinion, it would be a lot more of a deterrent to try to do that with someone that understood IP.
Hey, Dane, I got a question for you.
Okay.
There's a company I really want.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. It's get great distribution. I want to get in, but they don't want to work with me. What do I do?
Well, the question I would have is they don't want to work with you or they're not open to ideas.
Well, both. Let's say they don't take ideas. What do I do? I mean, for whatever reason, I can't get to them, or maybe they don't even want to take ideas, but I want them. Is there anything I can do?
No. No.
Why
No.
not? What do you,
It's
you're
like
not going to
this
change their
company,
mind.
this company that I reached out to, that the woman talked about Walmart and the prices, and I reached out to the CEO. He said they're not open. My response was, thank you so much. I appreciate your quick response. Have a great day.
Okay. Some people just don't want to let
That's the end
go,
of that.
Dana. They don't.
What?
They just don't want to let go. But I think you have to.
You have to. You have to.
Well,
Unless
yeah,
they say
you,
they're not open at this time, then I'm going to hit you back in 6 months.
Yeah, this time, and I had that happen. A company I reached out. Now this is interesting. This just happened today. Got into a company. They don't have a LinkedIn. They do not have a phone number. We talked about that in one of the YouTube videos that we did about how some companies just do not have a public phone number. Kind of said that was a little bit of a red flag. But their website, let's see how they're very active on Facebook, very active.
Okay.
I reached out to them on Facebook Messenger.
Okay. Hey, Dan, I got a question for you. Or even Andrew. This is going for Andrew. Andrew, I'm going to the licensing show in Vegas. Is that a good use of my time?
no,
Why?
it's not.
Why? But it says licensing show.
Yeah, yeah. So you want to go to a trade show in the industry or invention. If you have a firearm, you go to the SHOT Show, Chad mentioned. If you got a pet product, I go to the Super Zoo show because it's here in town, which is the pet industry trade show. Dana loves going to the Houseware show. She's the queen of the Houseware show in Chicago. It's closer to her, so she always goes there. The licensing show is a weird show. It's not a place you go to license your invention.
Mhm.
It's a brand licensing show. So who's there? So it's like Disney. It's like, anybody that's wanting to license their brand to a manufacturer. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Disney doesn't make most of their own stuff. Other companies do, and they get a license from Disney, and Disney lets them pay them for the right to put Mickey Mouse on a T-shirt, to do an action figure, a G.I. Joe, or whatever. I know that's not a Disney thing. So you don't want to go to the licensing show. So for 99.5% of you, the licensing show is not the right place. The right place, the most important lesson here is go to a trade show in the industry of your invention. If you have a promotional product, go to one of the promotional product shows. You have a dog toy, go to Super Zoo. And, a lot of people are asking, like, what are the websites that I need to find these trade shows in the industry of my invention? Just use ChatGPT. Say, what are the websites I can use to look up trade shows in the industry of my invention? You'll get a current list.
Okay, you guys, I want to keep on going down this road. Dana, I sent it to a company. I haven't heard back yet. They're reviewing it. How long do I wait before I reach back and go, hey, what the heck's going on here?
Oh, good question. Depending on the size of the company. If it's a smaller company, I might reach back in 7 to 10 days. I might email them back right away and say, thank you so much. When's a good time to follow up? Hoping that they will respond and say, give me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. More than likely, I'm going to do that. If they don't respond, I'm good. This is for a smaller company. I'm probably going to reach back out in 7 to 10 days, 14 days. We keep very good records of. You have to keep really good records of when you do this too. However you're going to do it, keep very good records because you want to follow up consistently at a certain time. If it is a very large company, I am talking to a very large company right now. I am not following up for 30 days.
Wow. That's
because
forever.
that shows, first of all, it shows them that I'm not needy and that I'm giving them time. And then I'll just do a touch. So it really just depends.
Okay. All right.
Now, how many times will I follow up before I just basically say, okay, this person's not responding. They wanted to see it. I sent it over. They're not responding. I might follow up to 6 times
Okay.
before I just say, okay, I've got to find a new contact.
So Dana, to move this along a little bit quicker now because we're running out of time. Let's say they do respond
Hmm.
and they looked at it and says, we're interested. What happens then?
Well, they
Do they
usually just
ask,
don't
are they asking for something? I mean, do you have a
sometimes.
working prototype or what are you looking for? I mean, what starts happening now after that?
Well, I've never had, I don't think I've ever had somebody come back and just say, yes, we're interested and not say anything else. They say, yes, we're interested. Do you have
Oh,
a working prototype? Yes, we're interested. What kind of IP do you have?
okay.
Yes, we're interested. Um, can you give us we're gonna show we're gonna review it a little bit more. Yes, we're interested. We want to get
What's,
manufacturing quotes. The one I just got the other day is yes, we're interested. What does your licensing agreement look like?
can I talk a
What
little
does
bit
your
about,
licensing agreement look like?
Yeah, they've never licensed before, I don't think.
you guys,
Oh, okay.
let me
Somebody's
mention
got to be the
something,
first.
and we should probably do a whole session on this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what's happening is when you send over a sell sheet or your video, they have to do a lot of work to evaluate it.
Mm.
And they're going to probably bring in a couple different people, maybe a manufacturing, a marketing, a sales guy, and that takes a long time to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize how long that really takes
Mm-hmm.
because with Gateway, we do the same thing now to see if there's a project we want to take on. But what happens is it comes in, and we had so many questions that we had to go back and ask, just like these companies are doing. We had people fill out an application. And that application states, what's your point of difference? Do you have IP? Have you sold it? I mean, we go on and on and on because that information is so important to move it forward. Now, why is that important to you? It's important to you to realize sometimes when you give them that pitch to a company, you can answer some of those questions. So knowing your cost or knowing your point of difference, all these little things add up to make it go faster because we realize now they're having a hard time evaluating your idea just on a sell sheet and a one sentence benefits or a sizzle video. It's not enough, is it, Andrew?
No, it's quite often enough to go fishing, but you're probably going to need more. And you're right. Sometimes you need more up front. So if there's something that you think it's really good sometimes with a sentence or two in the email to do a preemptive strike on what you think a criticism would be, like, oh, this is going to be ridiculously expensive by looking at the sell sheet in the video, and you just say, I know your products are typically around 1995. We can hit that price point. We believe we know we can hit the price
Yep,
point with
yep,
this.
yep.
So instead of them looking at it and going, this is interesting, but no, because of this. So if you can kind of think about what their
I,
objection would be and address it. That doesn't mean you're making this long paragraph, but if you can hit a few of those, you might get a higher hit rate and
yeah,
more interest.
there's usually
Yeah.
a couple of things they're always going to be concerned about. You need to state your intellectual property. They want to know that. They want to know if you have a working prototype. They want to know that. They want to know if you have any a sample you can send to them. They want to know that. They might even want to know if you know the cost. They want to know that. So it doesn't have to be in your sell sheet, but it could be a page later. It could be some notes. But you guys just realize that when they're looking at this, the reason why it takes so darn long,
Mm.
they're asking these questions and then they're trying to do their own homework. Then they come back and ask the questions Dana just asked. So you're trying to speed it up to make it easier for people.
Or let's go even further, Stephen. They see the sell sheets, they see the video, they have some concerns. They don't take the time to email you back because they're busy. And then it goes further and further down. It leaves their brain. And then Dana or Chad, in our case, need to reach out again. They're like, oh, this again. Okay. Maybe now I'll
I
respond.
just ran into that this week on one of the companies that I reached out to for one of the client's products. He asked for some comparative benchmark data versus other products that are out there. So I sent over a little bit of what the client had, and then I think it'd been a couple weeks since I'd been back around, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember seeing that." But and then we were able to go over that data on the phone. He had some more specific questions, so
Okay.
That's a good thing, because if they just pop off and say no right away, then you're out, But if as long as you can keep them on the hook, asking questions, I mean, you're heading in the right direction.
Okay, you guys, we want to stop on time. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We're going to hold these every Wednesday. We're going to bring on Chad, Dana. There's a couple other gators, we call them, the gators, and they're going to provide the most current information, how you can bust down the doors to get your ideas in front of those companies to get a licensing deal. It has gotten harder. That's why we're doing this every Wednesday. Thank you for joining. And if you want to put some thank yous in there, that's always great. You guys, we love to see them. Dana,
Yeah.
thank you for fighting so hard for all of us.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here. We're really just trying to share our real life experience so that you can learn from it. Hopefully you'll get something
And
out of it.
Chad,
I want to make
say the
a
same
quick.
thing to you too. Thank you for doing this. I know it's the hardest. You guys, when we first started doing this, I told everyone this will be the hardest job you ever do, but it will be the most important job that you ever do, because if we can figure out how to do this right, we're going to change an industry, you guys, because no one really does this very well, and we're going to pass that information on to each and every one of you.
And we're doing it better than everybody else out there. I mean, you can call that ego if you want, but we are hands down. We're doing it better than everybody else is doing it.
I agree wholeheartedly. I want to make a comment. Next week, when we send the notice out about the next one we're doing this coming Wednesday, there's going to be a link in it that lets you sign up for a newsletter just for this meeting every Wednesday. Because with our general newsletter, when we're blasting you like 3 times a week, that's a little bit much, but you're like, hey, I love these meetings. I want to get reminded. I don't mind getting a notification 3 times the same day the meeting is. So when you get that, if you really like this session, sign up for the additional newsletter that will remind you of this meeting. So because we're going to start sending less, we can't be sending it to our entire list 3 times in the same day. We're doing that right now to get up and running. So subscribe to the Licensing Playbook Live. That's what you're on right now. When you get that email, subscribe to that separate newsletter if you'd like to get a lot of notifications the day of the event. Okay.
It's always the same link, right?
I need to ask the team to make sure that.
I think it's the same. It's the same link. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that too, but I would definitely subscribe to this additional newsletter. So if you really like these to get notified, you can ignore them in a particular week. I really recommend doing that.
All right, you guys, thank you very much. I see a lot of old friends, new friends, and I just want to welcome everybody.
Oh, there's Kirk down there. Kirk's
you guys,
here.
this is like it's like a party. It's a party. That's what I look at it, you guys. So
you know what? We're all together. We all have the same goal and dream. Like normal people out there don't think the way we think. This is our community, normal people.
You guys are not normal, and that's cool.
There you go.
None of us are. It's okay.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
All right, you guys.